My time here has been a speck in the span of my life. You don't know me. You're a Viltrumite in blood only. Well, your true education begins now. You're doing this for nothing. You want to die for this planet? Fine! What's 17 more years? You're fighting so you can watch everyone around you die! Everything you know will be gone!
Featured in Robert Kirkman's Invincible series, published by Image Comics and developed into animation for Amazon, the Viltrumites are an incredibly advanced and terrifying alien species of immensely powerful humanoids hailing from the planet Viltrum. As the ruling race of the Viltrum Empire, they've built a reputation across the galaxy as a merciless, militaristic civilization driven by a single goal: universal conquest. Their imperial ambitions stretch far beyond their home world, fueled by a ruthless expansionist ideology that compels them to dominate other planets, subjugate alien species, and crush any resistance in their path. What sets the Viltrumites apart is not only their overwhelming physical prowess, which far exceeds that of most known species, but also their unshakable belief in strength as the ultimate measure of worth. This ideology has shaped their society into a brutal meritocracy, where only the strongest survive and weakness is seen as a failing, worthy of eradication. Through this lens, they view themselves as the rightful rulers of the universe, destined to impose order through absolute force. The result is a civilization that suppresses diversity, extinguishes cultural freedom, and enforces its will with an iron grip. Their control over conquered worlds is total, and their methods are as efficient as they are unforgiving. Their technological achievements, particularly in weaponry, spacefaring capabilities, and genetic engineering, only enhance their threat, making them one of the most feared and dangerous forces in existence. To encounter a Viltrumite is to face a being who is not only nearly indestructible, but also unwavering in their belief that they are superior to all others. They are the embodiment of dominance and control, a galactic empire whose ideology leaves no room for compromise and whose legacy is written in conquest. Hey guys, what's happening? Niyat here with Film Comics Explained, and today we're breaking down the history, culture, and powers of the Viltrumites. Don't forget to hit subscribe and the notification icon to stay up to date on all the latest content, and click the like button to help appease the algorithm gods. Also, if you'd like to make a suggestion on what you want me to cover next, please don't hesitate to ask in the comments below.
We have created a perfect civilization, but it took all of our strength, determination, and courage to get there. By the time I was born, Viltrum was already the greatest empire in our galaxy. We decided to make it the only empire in our galaxy.
Almost every major event in the Invincible series can be traced back to one man, Nolan Grayson, better known to the world as Omni-Man. Introduced as Earth's greatest protector, Nolan's true nature is slowly revealed across the series as something far more terrifying. Behind his fatherly smile and noble speeches lies a legacy of domination, bloodshed, and ideological fanaticism rooted in his origin as a Viltrumite. At first, Nolan describes his people and homeworld Viltrum as a kind of utopia, a peaceful, harmonious society dedicated to order and prosperity across the stars.
Millions of miles from here, out in deep space, is the planet Viltrum. When our people come of age, we leave Viltrum and venture out into the galaxy, using our abilities to help lesser developed worlds.
But the truth, when it emerges, is far more brutal. The Viltrumites are not guardians of peace, they are agents of domination. They were once a species not so different from humans in their biological makeup. Little is known about their early history, but over time they evolved into something far more powerful and enduring. Their lifespans lengthened dramatically and their bodies developed near godlike strength, resilience, and speed. At the height of their early civilization, they reached an age of remarkable prosperity. Disease, famine, and hardship were virtually eliminated, and the Viltrumites lived in what could only be described as a technological utopia. The Viltrum Empire rose through an unrelenting belief in strength, forged by eugenics and war. Its people were genetically engineered for flight, immense strength, and near immortality. With centuries of evolution behind them, the Viltrumites had a head start, both biologically and technologically, over the rest of the galaxy. That supremacy infiltrated their emerging ideology, that only the strong deserve to rule, and weakness is a defect that must be purged. This belief wasn't theoretical, it was enforced. It was so extreme that the Empire eventually underwent what would become known as the Great Purge, a civil war that saw Viltrumite society turn inward. In this genocidal campaign, they turned on one another in an effort to cull the weak from their ranks, driven by an extremist belief that only the strongest were fit to survive. The death toll was staggering. Over half of the Viltrumite population, nearly 4 billion, were wiped out. What remained was a leaner, more ruthless race of warriors. Hardened by bloodshed, they believed themselves destined to rule the cosmos.
In order for our people to reach their full potential, we had to remove the weak from our society.
This militarist philosophy grew out of generations of leadership, beginning with Argol, the first emperor of Viltrum. Under his reign, the planet enjoyed relative peace, albeit through dominance, but not everyone supported him. Thaddeus, a Viltrumite who saw the Emperor for what he truly was, assassinated Argol in a moment of rebellion that would change everything. Argol's death created a power vacuum, temporarily filled by his trusted right-hand Thrag, who was appointed Grand Regent with a promise that he would step down when the true heir was found. That heir would eventually be revealed to be Nolan himself, but Thrag had other ideas. As his rule stretched on, he slowly abandoned the search, solidifying his own claim to power. The betrayal destabilized Viltrum, but did nothing to slow its imperial ambitions. With the purge complete and a clearer path to galactic conquest ahead, the surviving Viltrumites set their sights outward. They created a world-conquering committee and launched a full-scale intergalactic campaign.
Some species resisted, of course, but no one could withstand us for long. Soon our empire encompassed thousands of planets.
Their strategy was chillingly methodical. Scout inferior worlds, establish military outposts nearby, and then deploy elite Viltrumite agents to announce and execute the takeover. They offered peace, prosperity, and technological miracles to any world that would submit to them. Those who refused were met with annihilation. Entire civilizations were razed, their populations enslaved or exterminated. The Unopans, for instance, were one such species who dared to resist and paid with the destruction of their home world. In response, they turned to genetic engineering themselves, launching a breeding program that would eventually give rise to warriors like Alan the Alien, beings designed specifically to counter Viltrumite supremacy. The creation of the World-Conquering Committee marked the beginning of the Viltrumite's so-called Golden Age, an era of rampant expansion during which they conquered their own galaxy and then spread into others, becoming a force so feared and widespread that a counterforce had to be created to stop them. That resistance came in the form of the Coalition of Planets, an alliance secretly founded by Thaddeus himself. Though he hid his Viltrumite origins from most of its members, the Coalition's very existence was a response to the Viltrum Empire's power. The fact that it took a galactic alliance of species just to slow the Viltrumite advance speaks to the staggering success and reach of their empire. Understanding the history of the Viltrumites is essential to understanding Omni-Man, Invincible, and the larger narrative of the series. Their ideology isn't just a backdrop, it shapes every action Nolan takes and every conflict that follows. The mask of benevolence that Nolan wears in the beginning is just that, a mask. Beneath it lies a legacy of war, betrayal, and a civilization built on the bones of those deemed unworthy. The Viltrumites don't just conquer planets, they erase cultures, impose their will, and reforge civilizations in their image. They are evolution as empire, strength as morality, and order by extermination. Thaddeus was so disturbed by the brutality and unchecked power of his race that he resolved to stop the Empire by any means necessary. Knowing the Viltrumites' physiology better than anyone, he engineered a biological weapon using his own genetic material, a pathogen that would become known as the Scourge virus. This virus wasn't just a deterrent, it was a weapon of extinction. When it was unleashed, the results were catastrophic. Over 99.9% of the Viltrumite population perished, pushing the species to the brink of annihilation. It was the darkest chapter in the Empire's history and fundamentally altered their destiny. The scourge fire shattered the foundation of Viltrumite dominance, and the survivors were severely weakened, both physically and strategically. Expansion plans were halted overnight, and the few elite warriors who remained were summoned back to Viltrum to regroup and reassess. The Viltrumites, who once crushed civilizations with ease, could now be bested by an alliance of alien species they'd previously deemed inferior. For the first time, they were vulnerable. Thrag, ever the tactician, kept the extent of this biological catastrophe hidden and issued a decree forbidding internal conflict, knowing that even one more death could jeopardize the entire civilization. The incident didn't just decimate their numbers, it reshaped their goals and plans. No longer able to expand through brute force alone, the Empire shifted its focus toward genetic preservation. Their new mission was clear: procreate at any cost to rebuild their numbers. Thus, they revised their strategy and devised a more subtle and insidious method of infiltration. One trusted Viltrumite would be sent to a target world to live among the natives, study them, and slowly erode their defenses from within. Over time, this agent would prepare the planet for eventual takeover, undermining its institutions, neutralizing its champions, and ensuring a smooth conquest when the Empire finally arrived. This new imperative led them to Earth. Human beings, though far weaker physically, were genetically compatible with the Viltrumites, sharing 99% of their DNA. Despite humanity's perceived inferiority, Earth presented the perfect opportunity for Viltrumite restoration, and so Nolan Grayson, Omni-Man, was dispatched to begin a long-term infiltration mission, disguised as a benevolent protector, and was given years to quietly bring the world under Viltrumite control. Nolan was one of the Empire's most respected warriors. Though he hadn't participated in the earlier purge, he'd served with distinction on the World Conquering Committee, a testament to his strength and loyalty. Unknown to him at the time, he was also of royal blood, one of the last living descendants of Emperor Argol. Thrag, upon discovering this truth, concealed it to preserve his own claim to power.
Once I was old enough, I joined the war effort. It was hard, but I believe in our cause. And now, we need to get Earth ready to join the Viltrum Empire.
Assigned to Earth, Nolan integrated into society, built relationships, joined a superhero team as Omni-Man, created a life for himself as a celebrated author, and even started a family. He married Debbie and eventually fathered Mark Grayson, also known as Invincible. But beneath the surface of this peaceful domestic life was the mission to prepare Earth for conquest. For 2 decades, he played the part of a hero, all while hiding his true nature and his mission. When the time came to reveal his allegiance, the impact was catastrophic. Nolan's betrayal sent shockwaves across the planet and left scars on Earth's collective psyche.
Is Mom's life worthless?
In the grand scheme of things, yes.
For the first time in your life, I'm telling you the truth.
These people are meaningless. They're cavemen.
But what made Nolan's story particularly compelling was the way his long exposure to humanity began to erode his loyalty to Viltrum. The same emotions he was taught to reject, love, empathy, and regret, slowly took root. His mission was to prepare Earth for subjugation, but Earth, in a way, began to change him instead. The Viltrumite Empire's strategy for genetic expansion by breeding with the native populations of the worlds they invaded had some interesting results. To the Viltrumites, even reproduction was a means of imperial dominance, governed by strict standards of genetic worthiness. Interspecies breeding was only permitted with species whose biology closely resembled that of Viltrumites, and the resulting offspring were closely scrutinized. If a hybrid child could eventually match a full-blooded Viltrumite in strength and capability, they would be accepted, grudgingly, as legitimate members of the Empire. Those deemed genetically inferior were treated with disdain, often cast aside or used only for lesser purposes. Nolan's son Mark Grayson would eventually prove to be nearly as powerful as a pure Viltrumite, though his abilities didn't emerge until he neared adulthood. Once they surfaced, it became clear he was capable of rivaling even the Empire's elite. Later in his life, after abandoning his original mission and breaking away from the Empire, Nolan journeyed to the planet Thraxa, where he began a new chapter. The Thraxans were a species of insectoid beings biologically very different from Viltrumites. They lived fast and died young, but despite their clear genetic incompatibility by Viltrumite standards, Nolan took a Thraxan woman named Andressa as his wife and fathered another son, Oliver. At first, Oliver aged rapidly and seemed to inherit more of his mother's physiology, but over time, the Viltrumite genes within him began to assert dominance and he grew far more powerful and resilient. By the rigid elitist code of the Viltrumite Empire, Thraxans would have been deemed far too inferior for interbreeding, and Oliver would have been viewed as an abomination. Yet Nolan's time among humans had changed him. He no longer saw his sons as tools of conquest or measurements of genetic worth. He loved them, both of them, and eventually stood beside them in battle against the very empire that had shaped him. His defection and the love he showed for his families became both a personal redemption and a symbolic rejection of the ideology he was raised to uphold. In doing so, Nolan not only helped turn the tide against the Viltrumites, but proved that compassion, not strength alone, could shape the future of the galaxy.
Why so worried, Nolan? If your son dies, he never deserved to live. You should worry about your son, Nolan.
The Viltrumites are defined by an unflinching devotion to strength, power, and conquest, an ideology encapsulated in their core belief: might makes right. As a species, they are brutal social Darwinists who venerate superiority in all its forms. From birth, they're raised to value strength above all else, with honor and glory earned only through dominance. Their society scorns weakness, treating it not as a misfortune, but as a disease to be purged. Despite their xenophobia, Viltrumites are not prejudiced by race or superficial traits. Their judgment is purely rooted in ability. They view other species through the lens of inferiority, tolerating them only when it serves a reproductive or strategic advantage. Their culture is also deeply hierarchical, and power is everything. After the assassination of Emperor Argol, the Viltrumite Council appointed Thrag as Grand Regent to lead until a rightful heir could be found. Thrag, however, dismissed Argol's vision of combining wisdom with strength and instead championed brute force as the supreme measure of worth. Under his reign, the Empire transformed into an even more primal and militaristic force. Strength alone dictated leadership, and Thrag's dominance solidified a culture where raw power became the Empire's ultimate currency. This culture bleeds into every aspect of Viltrumite life, including love, reproduction, and family. Emotional attachment is viewed as a weakness. Mating is based purely on strength and compatibility. Romantic notions are irrelevant. Both male and female Viltrumites see their partners as tests of their own might or as a means to perpetuate the bloodline. Children are not nurtured with affection but disciplined into obedience. A parent feels no sadness if an offspring dies, only disappointment if they fail to prove worthy. True pride comes only if the child demonstrates strength, earning the parent's respect rather than love. Nolan embodied this in his relationship with Mark, a hybrid son who, in Nolan's eyes, had to earn his place through strength and resilience, not sentiment.
You can punch with your arm, but if you punch with your shoulder, your hips, and your legs as well, it'll be much more powerful. Try it a little more like this.
Like what?
The Viltrumite attitude toward hybrid offspring is complex. While racial purity was once a point of pride, the scourge virus shifted priorities. Now hybrids are given a rare opportunity, prove themselves in combat, and they may be accepted. But failure in this trial results in immediate execution. Their lives deemed forfeit due to genetic inadequacy. Survival is merit-based, and death is the only sentence for weakness. Even death itself follows strict protocol. After the Great Purge and the devastation of the Scourge virus, it became rare and dishonorable to kill another Viltrumite. If one is to be executed, it must be when they're fully healed and at peak strength. Only then can they face death with dignity. Executions are ceremonial, brutal, and personal. The condemned is shackled, judged for their offenses, and beaten to death by assigned executioners. However, if a former traitor had once served the Empire well, they may be offered a final chance to rekindle their loyalty and rejoin their people. This paradoxical mix of honor and barbarism defines the Viltrumite code. Even their appearance reflects this rigid militarism. Most Viltrumites wear plain white uniforms, with higher-ranking members adding grey or crimson elements depending on status. The ruling class wears crimson in place of white, and all uniforms feature the Viltrumite insignia, 3 vertical lines inside a circle. Facial hair, particularly mustaches, is common among males, signifying reverence for tradition and their first emperor. Female Viltrumites typically wear short hair or ponytails, underscoring discipline and function over flair. This cultural uniformity mirrors the emotional restraint expected of them. Viltrumite names are similarly utilitarian. They don't use family names or titles beyond necessity, and some are named after traits or ideals their society holds sacred, like conquest. This brutal efficiency of identity reflects their entire civilization. Every word, custom, and act serves the Empire's singular, merciless vision of strength, conquest, and survival through domination. Despite the deeply ingrained values of violence, strength, and conquest that define Viltrumite society, they are extraordinary exceptions. Rare individuals who diverge from the Empire's rigid code to experience compassion, empathy, and even love. Thaddeus was the first of his kind to truly reject the Viltrumite way. What began as mere discomfort turned into conviction, and eventually full-blown rebellion. His awakening sparked a historic betrayal that altered the fate of the universe. Nolan is another outlier. Though originally sent to infiltrate and prepare Earth for conquest, his long tenure on the planet changed him. At first, Nolan denied any genuine emotional connection to humans, viewing them as beneath him. But through his relationship with Debbie and his experiences raising their hybrid son Mark, Nolan gradually began to understand and even embrace concepts foreign to Viltrumites: emotional vulnerability, familial love, and compassion.
What are you doing?
If I have to watch this game, I'd have a better view from above.
You know you can't do that.
This transformation is seen by many Viltrumites as dangerously subversive. To them, Earth's influence on Nolan and his sons is nothing short of poison, an emotional contagion threatening to erode the unyielding principles of Viltrumite dominance.
Welcome to our home. My husband's told me so much about you.
Andressa,
What the f is going on?
Mark,
Who's that?
this is your little brother. By now, Viltrum knows I've left my post, and they'll find this planet. They'll see your brother as inferior and kill him. You don't have to forgive me,
Good.
but he is innocent in all this.
The Viltrumite physiology is an intricate fusion of refined power, genetic dominance, and adaptive resilience. These are not beings who simply possess strength, they embody it. Every Viltrumite is born with a formidable suit of abilities that only sharpen over time, enhanced further through combat experiences and rigorous conditioning. They are biological weapons, each one engineered for survival, dominance, and war. At their core, their bodies are optimized to not just withstand, but overcome nearly any force the universe throws towards them. Their aging process is drastically slowed, with cellular degeneration nearly suspended as they grow older. A Viltrumite can live for thousands of years while maintaining peak physical and mental faculties. Time does little to dull them. This is seen in individuals like Conquest, whose grizzled appearance masks an undiminished savagery and strength that exceeds younger counterparts. Age for them is less a burden than a badge of sharpened lethality.
Let's step things up, shall we?
Get out of here.
One of the most remarkable aspects of their biology is the dominance of their genes. Their DNA is so overwhelmingly potent that they can successfully interbreed with countless other species. In these unions, the Viltrumite genome overrides almost all foreign traits, creating hybrid offspring that are functionally Viltrumite in both body and potential. When paired with genetically similar beings such as humans, the resulting hybrids, like Mark Grayson, can develop nearly the full range of Viltrumite powers. In essence, Viltrumites can propagate their race across the stars without the need for pure bloodlines, which is not only a biological marvel, but a political strategy. Their powers form an overwhelming arsenal. They can fly with perfect control and maneuverability thanks to a finely tuned internal equilibrium system, which functions even in space. Their strength is vast, enough to lift massive objects, tear limbs from foes, and level entire cities in moments. Their blows are not only crushing but precise, honed by millennia of training. This strength is matched by their durability. Their bodies can withstand immense trauma, including high-caliber weaponry, plasma blasts, base exposure, and explosive force. They move with blistering speed, capable of circling the globe in seconds, and can traverse interstellar distances at incredible velocities without technological aid. Some individuals even demonstrate elite tiers within their already high standards. Anissa, for example, showcases superior speed and reaction times beyond even Nolan. These abilities are further supported by their reflexes, agility, and precise spatial awareness, making them combatants without peer. The Viltrumite capacity to heal only enhances their menace. They can regenerate broken bones, torn muscles, and even regrow organs and limbs in astonishingly short spans. Their immune systems are so advanced that they are completely impervious to known diseases, poisons, or biological threats. Even parasitic threats like Martian sequids are ineffective, unable to penetrate their skin or hijack their nervous system. This durability also enables them to survive in the vacuum of space, underwater, or in oxygen-deprived environments with ease, thanks to their enhanced lung capacity. They don't need food for long stretches of time, and they can endure fatigue-free combat that spans hours, days, or even longer. Only the destruction of vital organs such as the heart or brain can truly kill them. Sensory perception is yet another arena where they excel. Their hearing spans extraordinary distances and frequencies, allowing them to detect subtle sounds while ignoring ambient noise. Their vision is telescopic, rendering faraway objects in exquisite detail. These heightened senses grant them an intuitive edge in combat, further sharpening their already lethal instincts. However, for all their power, Viltrumites are not without vulnerabilities. Their equilibrium system, while a source of flight, is also a weakness. High-frequency sonic attacks can destabilize them, causing disorientation, pain, and in extreme cases, death. Physical harm is still possible when inflicted by entities of comparable or greater power, and the Scourge virus remains the most effective weapon ever used against them. Engineered from Viltrumite DNA by Thaddeus, the virus directly assaults their immune system, neutralizing their strength and healing, often killing them unless their immunity is exceptionally strong. Environmental conditions can also hinder them. On the Savage planet, Nolan noted that the gravity was so intense that it drastically reduced his flight speed and maneuverability, forcing him to use jetpacks, an indignity for a Viltrumite. And then there are the psychological and emotional fractures within their near-perfect shells. Raised in a culture that prizes conquest and suppresses vulnerability, Viltrumites are emotionally stunted. They reject empathy, bond only superficially, and embrace a cold utilitarianism as a coping mechanism. This detachment has allowed them to commit atrocities without hesitation, but it is also a weakness, an emotional vacuum that leaves them vulnerable to change. Nolan's transformation is proof of this. His time among humans filled with family, love, and heartbreak awakened a conscience long buried. His evolution from cold conqueror to loving father illustrates that even Viltrumites can feel remorse, experience guilt, and desire connection. It also suggests that their lack of empathy isn't an innate limitation but a cultural scar, one that can be healed under the right conditions. In that way, emotion, so often dismissed by Viltrumite doctrine, may be the very thing that saves them from their own self-destruction.
You'll outlast every fragile, insignificant being on this planet. What will you have after 500 years?
I still have you.
When he feels joy, we feel joy. See that look on his face? How can you see that and not feel the same way? Our children remind us of the joys in life, shows us what life is all about. This is humanity.
Did you see that? Did you see? Oh, that was